Literally no one asked for this, but sometimes you just have to follow your gut. And if you were also devastated that this Taylor Swift surprise song piano vinyl box sold out in 2.5 seconds, let me remind you that there was a second, arguably even more whimsical and enchanting piano on that tour, and there's nothing stopping you or me from super gluing some green stuff to anything we want, which for me will be this sadly kind of damaged case that I already have. And yes, I did actually drop everything now and go foraging for some supplies, and if you're mental enough to want to try this too, make sure and grab some acrylic paint, rub and buff, super glue, sponges, as well as whatever preserved moss looks good to you. And yeah, all of this seemed like a good idea at the time, but I really had no idea if any of it was going to work. But sometimes the best thing to do when you're unsure is to just start, and since this case is a plasticky faux leather, Google says I can paint on it. So of course we prepped the surface while watching some tutorials about how to get that faux stone texture, and maybe this part isn't necessary, but I really felt like I was going to sell the whole look. And just because I paint doesn't mean I do realistic stuff, let me tell you, I was really just winging it and hoping for the best at this point, and the sponging with the shades of grays really came through, and after adding some splatters with a toothbrush, it was just perfect. I was so naively happy with it at this point, but well, you'll see. Now this part may not be necessary either, but to go along with that aged stone look, why not sand the shiny gold metal pieces and apply some bronze rub and buff? And while you're at it, do the handle too. I mean, we're already in this deep, but this is the part we can't go back from, because once you super glue this moss on there, oh baby, is it stuck. I came up with this toothpick method because I needed a way to really hold the moss down while the glue activated without accidentally gluing the pads of my fingers to this. And looking back, I can't believe I thought this was an afternoon kind of project. We were 4 days in at this point, between letting all the layers of paint and buff and sealer dry, and I was doing most of this at night after work. And unfortunately, this is where I kind of started to question it, because at first it felt like there was too little moss, and then it felt like maybe there was too much, but I really couldn't tear any of it off, so I kept going, keeping the moss strategically away from any moving pieces, hoping I would start seeing the vision, but it wasn't clicking in my brain. So instead of throwing it all out the way I was sorely tempted to, I just had to sit and stare at it for a few days before realizing it was still too pale. All that time I'd spent perfecting the base color needed to be thrown out the window, because look how dark and smudgy and green the actual piano is between the moss. And I'm telling you this now so you can avoid this step, but I had to go back in with a crusty little paintbrush and keep dry brushing for some depth and texture in between each and every little nook and cranny, and making sure it wasn't too much, because I just know I would not be able to color match that base again. I did that for a bit, but then abandoned this for 10 months because I just could not decide if I wanted to finish it or not, until randomly deciding just to get it over with yesterday, and here she is. I'm definitely happier with it than I was. Maybe it didn't turn out quite like I had in my head, and maybe my too much gene was in control again, but it still holds all my TS finals, and I think it definitely looks like the piano. And since I can't fit that baby gray in my house, then this is the next best thing.